The massive Zarkax warship hung silently in the darkness of space, its metallic hull reflecting the distant starlight. Inside the command center, Admiral Kithrix stood before the holographic display, his tall, insectoid frame casting long shadows across the polished floor. His compound eyes narrowed as they focused on the images being transmitted from their forward scout ships. "So this is Earth's mighty defense fleet," he chittered, mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among his species. The other officers in the command center joined in, their sounds creating an unsettling chorus. The scout ships had captured detailed footage of Earth's space vessels, a collection of what appeared to be simple ships patrolling the edges of their solar system. To the Zarkax, who had spent millennia perfecting their warcraft, these human vessels looked like children's toys. "Look at their propulsion systems," one of the junior officers remarked, zooming in on the engines of a human patrol ship. "They're still using ionic thrust matrices. We abandoned those 10 generations ago." Kithrix waved a clawed appendage, and the holographic display shifted to show more of Earth's fleet. Their ships were smaller than even the Zarkax scout vessels, with none of the characteristic weapon arrays that usually bristled from conquered species warships. The Admiral had expected more from a species that had managed to spread across their entire solar system. "Bring up the historical data," Kithrix commanded, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had led 17 successful planetary conquests. The air shimmered as new information appeared, recordings of Earth's broadcasts, their military capabilities, their technological progress. "Fascinating," he murmured, genuine interest coloring his tone. "They spend more resources on exploration and scientific research than military advancement." His mandibles clicked again, this time in dismissal. A critical mistake. The bridge crew continued their analysis, cataloging what they perceived as weaknesses. The human ships showed no signs of quantum shielding, no dark matter generators, not even basic gravitational manipulators. Instead, they seemed to rely on outdated technologies that the Zarkax Empire had long since discarded as inefficient. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we're detecting significant radio chatter between their vessels. They appear to be using unencrypted channels." This brought another round of chittering laughter from the crew. Kithrix moved closer to the display, his eyes reflecting the holographic light. "Show me their flight patterns." The image shifted again, displaying the movements of Earth's ships. They followed regular patrol routes, maintaining what appeared to be standard defensive positions around their solar system's key points. "They don't even maintain a proper battle formation," observed the tactical officer. "Their ships are spread too thin to mount any effective defense." But something about the situation nagged at the back of Kithrix's mind. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a spacefaring civilization that seemed so unconcerned with military might. The humans had proven themselves capable of remarkable technological achievements in other areas. Their medical advances, their understanding of quantum mechanics, their mastery of fusion power. Yet their military technology seemed almost deliberately outdated. "Run a deeper scan," he ordered suddenly. "Check for any hidden installations or cloaked vessels." The crew worked quickly, but their scans revealed nothing unexpected. Just the same seemingly primitive fleet, going about their routine patrols. "Perhaps they truly are as weak as they appear," Kithrix mused aloud, but his tone carried a hint of uncertainty. He had built his reputation on being thorough, on never underestimating an opponent. Yet everything their advanced sensors showed pointed to the same conclusion. Earth's fleet was hopelessly outmatched. The Admiral made his decision. "Prepare a first contact message," he commanded. "Let's see how they respond to a show of force." He turned to his tactical officer. "Include footage from our conquest of the Centaurian worlds. Make sure they understand exactly what they're facing." As his crew began composing the message, Kithrix returned his gaze to the holographic display. The human ships continued their patrols, seemingly oblivious to the fact that their world's fate was being decided. Soon, he thought, they would join the long list of civilizations that had fallen to the Zarkax Empire. Yet as he watched the apparently primitive human vessels, a small part of him wondered if they were missing something. The humans had surprised the galaxy before with their rapid technological advancement in other fields. Could they have something hidden beneath their seemingly weak exterior? Thrix quickly dismissed the thought. After all, the Zarkax had never failed in a conquest, and these humans, with their tiny ships and outdated technology, would surely prove no different. The galaxy would soon witness another triumph of the Empire, and Earth would become just another footnote in their long history of victories. As the first contact message was prepared for transmission, none of the Zarkax crew noticed that the regular patrol patterns of the human ships had begun to shift ever so slightly. The changes were subtle, so subtle that even their advanced sensors registered them as normal variants. But had they been watching more closely, they might have noticed that these tiny adjustments were slowly but surely forming a very specific pattern across the solar system. Commander Lee stood motionless before the main screen of Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the alien message play out for the third time. The footage showed entire worlds falling to the Zarkax fleet, massive ships tearing through planetary defenses like paper, cities crumbling under orbital bombardment, civilizations ending in flashes of light. "They certainly know how to make an entrance," she muttered, her voice steady despite the implications of what she was watching. Around her, the command center hummed with controlled activity as officers and analysts worked at their stations, maintaining the appearance of routine operations. The alien message had arrived 3 hours ago, broadcast simultaneously to every major communication center on Earth. It began with a demonstration of Zarkax military might, followed by their demands: immediate surrender, or Earth would join the graveyard of conquered worlds. Lieutenant Wong's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, the UN Security Council is ready." With a nod, Lee stepped into the secure conference room, where dozens of faces filled the screens along the walls. Despite the gravity of the situation, she noticed something unusual. None of the world leaders showed the fear you'd expect when facing an apocalyptic threat. "The Zarkax fleet will reach our outer defense perimeter in approximately 48 hours, Lee reported, bringing up tactical displays. "Their numbers match our early warning system's predictions." The Chinese premier leaned forward in his screen. "And our preparations. Everything is proceeding according to the Phoenix Protocol," Lee confirmed. "The fleet is maintaining their routine patrol patterns, complete with intentionally primitive communication methods." Our visitors seemed thoroughly convinced of their superiority. A quiet smile spread across the Indian president's face. 50 years of careful planning, and they've taken the bait perfectly. Not a single hint of suspicion about what's really happening. Lee brought up new data streams showing the positions of Earth's seemingly scattered fleet. To untrained eyes, the movements looked random, perhaps even disorganized. But hidden within that apparent chaos was a precise mathematical pattern, every ship slowly moving into exactly the right position. "What about the civilian population?" the Brazilian representative asked. "The Zarkax message is already spreading across social media." "Public panic works in our favor," the Russian leader responded. "Let them think we're scrambling and afraid. It adds credibility to our performance." Commander Lee watched as decades of humanity's greatest deception unfolded exactly as planned. Since the first hints of the Zarkax threat, picked up by deep space monitoring stations, Earth had presented itself as exactly what the aliens expected. A young, fractured civilization more focused on scientific advancement than military might. Every technological breakthrough had been carefully hidden behind a facade of slower progress. Every military advance disguised as something else. Even now, as the Zarkax approached with their conquest fleet, they saw exactly what they wanted to see. An easy target. "Time to move to Phase 2, Lee announced. "We'll begin evacuating coastal cities, making it look like we're running scared. Meanwhile, our fleet will continue their disorganized movements." She paused, allowing herself a small smile. By the time they realize those movements aren't random at all, it'll be too late. The UN Secretary General gave a firm nod. Humanity has had to learn patience and humility throughout its history. Now we'll teach the Zarkax why underestimating Earth is their biggest mistake. The screens winked out one by one as the leaders returned to their roles in humanity's greatest act of deception. As Commander Lee stepped back into the command center, she couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Zarkax thought they were watching a primitive civilization about to fall. Instead, they were witnessing humanity's most sophisticated military operation, decades in the making. And they didn't even know it. The Zarkax battle fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their massive ships casting long shadows across the void. Admiral Kithrix watched with growing satisfaction as the human vessels scattered like startled prey, breaking formation and retreating in apparent panic. "Look at them run," his weapons officer chittered. "They don't even maintain basic combat cohesion." The massive view screen showed Earth's ships fleeing in different directions, their engines flaring as they abandoned their patrol routes. Kithrix broadcast his victory speech across all frequencies, making sure the humans could hear every word. "Your primitive fleet falls back before we fired a single shot. This is the power of the Zarkax Empire. Surrender now, and we may show mercy." Back on Earth, Commander Lee stood in the control room, monitoring the carefully orchestrated chaos. Every retreat, every panicked radio transmission, every seemingly random movement was precisely calculated. Her officers maintained their act perfectly, sending out deliberately garbled distress calls and apparent signs of confusion. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the tension filling the room. "The Zarkax are advancing exactly as predicted," Lieutenant Wong responded. "They're following our fleeing ships, spreading their fleet thin just like the simulations showed they would." On the main display, red dots representing the alien vessels moved steadily forward, breaking into smaller groups to pursue the scattered human fleet. One of the junior officers looked up from his station. "Commander, they're broadcasting victory speeches already. Their admiral seems convinced we're in full retreat." Lee allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect. They're seeing exactly what they expect to see." She turned to her communications officer. "Time to add to their overconfidence. Send out the prepared transmissions." Across space, the Zarkax intercepted what appeared to be panicked communications between Earth's military commands. Arguments between different nations about whose fault this was, desperate plans for evacuation, pleas for unity that went unheeded. Admiral Kithrix absorbed it all with growing satisfaction. "These humans are even more divided than our intelligence suggested. They can't even coordinate their retreat properly." He turned to his tactical officer. "Begin recording their collapse. This will make an excellent addition to our victory archives." But deep within Earth's secure bunkers, military commanders watched their plan unfold with calculated precision. Every fleeing ship was actually moving into carefully predetermined positions. Each panicked transmission contained coded updates confirming that everything was proceeding according to schedule. The Zarkax fleet pressed forward, breaking into smaller and smaller groups as they chased what they thought were easy prey. Their formation, once tight and disciplined, now stretched across millions of kilometers of space as they pursued the apparently scattered human vessels. "They've taken the bait completely," Lee observed, watching the alien fleet spread itself thinner and thinner. "Their arrogance makes them predictable. They're so convinced of their superiority that they're not even considering this might be a trap." A message flashed across her screen, a simple text transmission from the hidden installation behind Jupiter. "Mothership preparations at 97%. Awaiting final fleet positioning." Lee checked the tactical display one last time. The human ships had led the Zarkax fleet into an elaborate web, though the aliens were too focused on their apparent victory to notice the pattern. Each retreating vessel had drawn a portion of the alien fleet exactly where it needed to be. "Send the confirmation signal," she ordered. "All ships maintain current vectors. Let's give our overconfident friends one final push toward their own defeat." Across the solar system, humanity's greatest deception was about to transform into its greatest revelation. The Zarkax's moment of triumph was seconds away from becoming their worst nightmare. Behind Jupiter's largest moon, something impossible was happening. What the Zarkax had dismissed as a simple natural satellite began to move. The surface shimmered and rippled as decades of carefully maintained camouflage fell away, revealing the true nature of humanity's greatest achievement. Commander Lee's voice rang out across all Earth defense channels. Operation Phoenix. Final phase. All ships, execute synchronization protocols. The supposedly fleeing human vessels suddenly stopped their retreat. Each ship's primitive hull began transforming, panels sliding away to reveal sophisticated equipment that had been hidden in plain sight. What the Zarkax had mocked as outdated ionic engines were actually just covers for technology they couldn't even comprehend. Admiral Kithrix stared in disbelief at his tactical display. What's happening? Why have they stopped running? His answer came in the form of a massive energy signature erupting from behind Jupiter's moon. The mothership emerged from its hiding place, and for the first time in his long career, Kithrix felt genuine fear. The vessel was unlike anything the Zarkax had ever encountered. It dwarfed their largest battleships, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly material that seemed to bend light itself. Impossible, Kithrix whispered. Our scans showed nothing like this. How could they hide something so massive? In Earth's command center, Lee watched the alien communications light up with panic. 50 years of preparation, she said quietly. 50 years of letting them think we were primitive, while we built something they couldn't even imagine. The mothership moved with impossible grace for its size, accelerating faster than the laws of physics should allow. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, adapting and changing as it moved. This wasn't just a warship, it was the culmination of human innovation, the product of every nation on Earth working together in absolute secrecy. All ships begin power synchronization, Lee commanded. The scattered human fleet, now perfectly positioned, activated their true systems. Energy began flowing between them, creating a web of power that centered on the mothership. An officer turned to Kithrix, mandibles trembling. Admiral, we're detecting energy patterns we've never seen before. The human ships, they're not individual vessels at all. They're all connected somehow. The truth dawned on Kithrix too late. Every retreat, every panicked transmission, every sign of weakness had been orchestrated to position his fleet exactly where the humans wanted them. The scattered formation he'd thought was a sign of their incompetence was actually a carefully laid trap. This is Commander Lee of the Earth Defense Force, her voice echoed across all frequencies. For decades you've watched us, thinking we were divided and weak. You saw what we wanted you to see. Now witness what humanity is truly capable of when we work together. The mothership's surface began to pulse with energy. The web of human ships glowed brighter, each vessel adding its power to the network. What seemed like primitive technology was actually part of something far more advanced, a system that could harness the very fabric of space-time itself. Kithrix barked orders frantically, trying to reorganize his scattered fleet. But they were too spread out, too perfectly positioned in the human's trap. His mighty armada, which had conquered 17 civilizations, was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating their opponents. As the mothership powered up its main systems, Lee thought about the generations of scientists, engineers, and workers who had sacrificed in secret to make this moment possible. Humanity had gambled everything on this single, massive deception, and that gamble was about to pay off. The time for hiding was over. Now, the galaxy would see humanity's true power. The mothership's first demonstration of power left even its human operators in awe. As the massive vessel activated its primary systems, space itself seemed to bend and twist around it. The network of smaller ships, positioned precisely throughout the solar system, pulsed with energy in perfect synchronization. Commander Lee watched as the fruits of 50 years of secret research finally revealed themselves. "Begin the gravity wave sequence," she ordered. "Show them what real advanced technology looks like." The Zarkak's fleet's sensors went wild as impossible readings flooded their systems. Admiral Kithrick stared in horror as what he dismissed as primitive human vessels began manipulating forces his people had never even dreamed of controlling. "What kind of weapons are these?" he demanded, but his officers had no answers. They watched as waves of distorted space-time rolled out from the human fleet. These weren't conventional weapons. The humans hadn't built bigger guns or stronger shields. They'd found a way to manipulate reality itself. "This is impossible," Kithrix whispered as one of his destroyer squadrons simply stopped. The ships hung motionless, caught in a bubble of altered space where time moved thousands of times slower than normal. His mighty warships trapped like insects in amber. The human fleet moved with impossible precision. Each small ship worked in concert with the others, creating overlapping fields of distorted space-time. What the Zarkaks had thought were weak engines were actually gravity manipulators. The seemingly primitive communication systems were quantum entanglement devices, allowing the entire fleet to act as a single organism. "Second phase," Lee commanded. The mothership's surface rippled, and suddenly half of the Zarkak's fleet found themselves experiencing gravity in entirely new directions. Up became down, forward became backward, and their carefully planned formations dissolved into chaos. Lieutenant Wong's voice carried a note of satisfaction as he reported, "Their fleet cohesion is breaking down completely. They can't maintain formation when each ship is experiencing a different gravitational field." The Zarkak's battle computers, the most advanced in known space, simply couldn't cope with what they were seeing. How could these supposedly primitive humans have mastered technology that should have been centuries beyond their reach? "Target their flagship," Lee ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate Earth." The mothership's energy web pulsed, and a sphere of pure darkness enveloped Kethrix's flagship. When it cleared seconds later, the massive vessel had been turned inside out, its hull now facing inward, its interior exposed to space. The crew survived, protected by their life support systems, but the message was clear. The humans could have destroyed them instantly if they'd wanted to. By the first nest, Kithrix breathed, watching his mighty fleet become helpless before technology he couldn't even understand. The humans hadn't just advanced beyond his people's weapons. They'd discovered entirely new laws of physics. In Earth's command center, the mood was focused but triumphant. Decades of allowing themselves to be seen as weak, of hiding their true capabilities, had led to this moment. The Zarkaks had expected simple metals and energies, but humanity had moved beyond such basic concepts. "Look at their formation," Wong noted with professional appreciation. "They're trying to adapt, but they can't fight what they don't understand. Their tactical doctrine is useless against physics they didn't even know existed." Lee nodded, watching as more Zarkak ships found themselves caught in temporal bubbles or twisted by impossible gravitational fields. "Sometimes the best weapon isn't a bigger gun," she said quietly. "It's proving that your enemy's understanding of reality itself is incomplete." The mothership continued its advance, the network of smaller ships moving in perfect harmony around it. Humanity had hidden its true nature for so long, playing the part of a young, divided species. Now, at last, the galaxy would understand why patience and innovation were more powerful than brute force and intimidation. Admiral Kithrix watched helplessly as his mighty fleet fell apart piece by piece. Ships that had conquered entire star systems now drifted helplessly, caught in impossible fields of twisted space-time. The humans weren't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of warfare itself. "Ready another attack formation," he ordered, but his voice had lost its usual confidence. The bridge crews scrambled to comply, though they all knew it was futile. Their weapons, once considered the most advanced in known space, might as well have been stone spears against what they were facing. "Admiral," his tactical officer's voice shook, "3 more squadrons just disappeared. The humans aren't destroying our ships, they're shifting them somewhere else. We don't know where." In Earth's command center, Commander Lee monitored the situation with steady eyes. Phase shift complete, Lieutenant Wong reported. The displaced Zarkax vessels have been relocated to the holding area near Neptune. Their crews are safe but completely contained. Send the final warning, Lee ordered. The message went out across all frequencies, translated into the Zarkax language. Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons are useless. Surrender now, and we guarantee your people's safety. Thrix's mandibles clicked in frustration as he watched another battle group vanish, shifted through space by human technology that defied comprehension. His mighty dreadnought, once the pride of the Zarkax fleet, now felt as fragile as glass. They could have destroyed us at any time, he realized aloud. They're choosing to capture rather than kill. The revelation hit him hard. These humans, whom he'd dismissed as primitive, were showing more mercy than the Zarkax had ever offered their victims. The Mothership moved through space like a dancer, its surface constantly shifting and adapting. Around it, the human fleet maintained their perfect formation, each ship adding to the network of space-time distortions that had rendered the Zarkax fleet helpless. Look at how they move. For centuries, we thought advancement meant building bigger weapons. One of the liberated alien representatives spoke up. You humans chose a different path. You focused on understanding the universe itself. Lee nodded. We realized early on that there would always be someone with a bigger gun or a stronger shield. So instead of joining that race, we looked deeper. We studied the fabric of reality itself. Every nation on Earth contributed their best minds to the project. The displays shifted to show the network of human ships, their true nature now revealed. What had appeared to be simple vessels were actually nodes in a vast web of space-time manipulation technology. The Mothership wasn't just a warship. It was a mobile research station, a testament to what humanity could achieve through cooperation. But how did you keep this hidden for so long? Another alien asked. Our sensors should have detected something. A slight smile crossed Lee's face. Sometimes the best place to hide is in plain sight. We let everyone see exactly what they expected to see. A young, divided species stumbling toward the stars. Our real advances were concealed behind a carefully maintained image of weakness. The news was already having effects across the galaxy. Other civilizations, inspired by Earth's example, were beginning to question the old ways of thinking. The revelation that a supposedly primitive species had secretly mastered space-time itself was causing a fundamental shift in how different races viewed progress. The age of conquest is over, Lee announced, looking at each delegate in turn. Earth is offering something new, a chance to learn, to grow, to understand the universe in ways you never imagined possible. We don't want subjects or servants. We want partners in exploration. Thrix's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. My people have much to learn from yours, it seems. We thought we were the teachers of the galaxy, but we were blind to true advancement. The meeting room's viewport showed Earth in the distance, a blue jewel floating in space. Around it, ships from various species now gathered peacefully, eager to learn from the civilization they had once dismissed. The greatest power, Lee said, isn't the ability to destroy. It's the wisdom to know when not to use that power, and the courage to find a better way forward. As the delegates filed out, each heading back to their worlds with news of Earth's offer of partnership, Lee thought about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. Decades of secret development, years of maintaining their deception, all leading to this moment. Not a triumph of warfare, but a victory for understanding and cooperation. The galaxy was changing. The old empires built on force were giving way to a new era of exploration and discovery, and Earth, once mocked as weak and primitive, would lead the way into this new dawn, not through force of arms, but through the power of innovation and the strength of unity. Kithrix's science officer observed with reluctant admiration. Their ships aren't just coordinated, they're connected somehow. Every vessel is part of a larger system. We never stood a chance. In the command center, Lee received updates from across the solar system. The trapped Zarkax ships were being contained safely, their crews unharmed but thoroughly defeated. Earth's deception had worked perfectly. By appearing weak, they had drawn their enemy into a trap centuries more advanced than anything the Zarkax could have prepared for. Final status report, she called out. The displays showed the remaining Zarkax ships, including Kithrix's flagship, surrounded by the human fleet's energy web. Admiral Kithrix, Lee broadcast, her voice calm but firm. You came here expecting to find an easy conquest. Instead, you've discovered that appearances can be deceiving. Humanity chose to advance differently than your people. We focused on understanding the universe rather than just building bigger weapons. The Mothership's energy field pulsed one final time, and Kithrix felt his flagship shudder. Outside his viewport, space itself seemed to fold and twist, showing him glimpses of other realities, other possibilities. It was a demonstration of power beyond anything he had imagined possible. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first seconds of battle, Lee continued. But that's not our way. We're offering you a choice. Surrender and learn from this experience, or continue fighting and face the consequences. Kithrix looked around his bridge, at his proud crew now humbled by technology they couldn't even begin to understand. His empire had conquered 17 species, but none of them had ever revealed capabilities like this. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had shown them how limited their understanding of the universe really was. The Admiral's clawed hand moved slowly to his communications panel. It was time to do something no Zarkax commander had done in 3 centuries. Surrender. Word spread quickly across the galaxy. The mighty Zarkax Empire, conquerors of 17 civilizations, had not only been defeated, they had been completely outmaneuvered by a species they'd dismissed as primitive. The news traveled through subspace channels, reaching every corner of known space. Earth was not what anyone had thought it was. 2 weeks after the surrender, Commander Lee stood in a meeting room aboard the Mothership, facing Admiral Kithrix and representatives from various conquered worlds. The Admiral's proud posture had changed to one of quiet reflection. You could have destroyed us all, Kithrix said, his voice carrying a new tone of respect. Instead, you showed mercy. Why? Because that's the difference between appearing powerful and being truly advanced, Lee replied. Real strength isn't about destruction. It's about understanding and growth. The room's holographic displays showed the Zarkax fleet, now peacefully docked near Neptune. Their crews were being taught about the true nature of human technology, not as punishment, but as a step toward a new future.